All right, good morning, everyone. I call this meeting of the Conroe Independent School District Audit Committee meeting to order. Because a quorum of the board is present, anyone who is registered and would like to make a public comment on items posted on the committee's agenda, you are welcome to do so at this time. All right, seeing none, we will continue on. The next item is to consider the approval of our minutes of our prior meeting on September 7th, 2021. Those were included in our board book. Is there anyone that has any revisions or changes? Or if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval is presented.
Thank you.
A second to motion.
Thank you, Mr. Moore and Mr. Hubert. Any discussion? Not all in favor signify by the uplifted hand. All right, thank you very much. Motion's approved. Next is to receive an update of the 2021-2022 internal audit plan. Mr. Hayden.
Thank you. Chairman Sanders, members of the Audit Committee, Dr. Knoll, guests, welcome to the last Audit Committee of 2021, which is hard to believe. I'll get into it. We completed 2 activity fund audits. Are there any questions on those? Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the Vogel one, right, that had some pretty significant findings.
Yes.
Are we gonna get into that any, or?
I'll answer any question that you have.
Okay.
And I've got people here that actually did the audit, so.
Yeah, that would be great. Is there anything you'd like to share with us that wasn't in the audit report, or anything specifically you would like to highlight in the
So
audit report?
If I may just.
Sure.
Yeah,
But some of those details, because they
Yes.
are personnel, are probably better to focus on the details in the report or maybe ask questions offline. I think the broader scope, certainly happy to answer any questions that you have. I think we have to be sensitive to the
sure.
process of not getting too much of that out publicly at the moment,
Okay.
so.
At the moment,
Yeah,
got it.
so, but, I mean, if you want to give,
Well, I will
happy to
give you
answer
a
anything
good-
you have. I just think we have to be, we just have to be aware that the personnel situations and
Yes.
things that shouldn't be public,
Okay.
shared in a public forum, we have to be aware of that.
Okay. All right, so stay away from identifying people. All right. I guess a general question would be, it looks like some of the findings seem to go back an entire year, right?
Correct.
And so I guess my question would be, were there controls that weren't followed there that are now implemented, or?
I believe that it's more of kind of just a general oversight
Okay,
issue that I think we've now, with the person that's the new financial secretary is great. So we have a really good, competent person in that position now. And I think that everyone's aware of these issues need to be, reviewed monthly and make sure that, things are happening the way they're supposed to. So I think that is going to happen.
okay. And it was supposed to be happening before the
Yep.
oversight, and it just,
Yeah,
okay.
it was just, there just wasn't a lot of follow-up where there should have been
I see,
follow-up.
I see. And do y'all plan on doing like a follow-up?
Oh, absolutely.
Activity fund audit? Okay.
Absolutely.
And what would be like the timing of that?
It would be
do you
summer.
think?
So summer's gonna when I'm do all my follow-ups.
Summer, okay.
So we'll have the rest of the year,
Mm-hmm.
from now, so, good 4 or 5 months to look at come June.
Okay. Did y'all also?
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Next is the, our operational audits, the police audit. First of all, I want to thank Chief and Captain Blakelock. They were fantastic to work with. Just went beyond and above what was asked of them, and so I want to make sure that, let everyone know how appreciated that was. We did have a couple of findings, one related to the police department and one related to safety. Are there any questions on those two findings?
Can you just give us an overall, just share with us an overall assessment of the police department and its operations, just
My overall assessment in that it is an extremely well-run department. What we found was one issue that you could link to one person, and everything else that we found, I mean, the observations were small. And obviously, if you read, the report, they moved forward and addressed those, just even the observations, and so I think it's a really well-controlled environment.
I will say, just a comment, I read through the audit report, of course, and I really liked the recommendations that y'all made, and I did really appreciate the response back. So it's clear to me that, that it is well-run, and that areas for improvement are taken seriously and addressed, and I feel that the things that are going to be put in place will directly mitigate the risk that y'all found. So
Agreed.
good job.
Agreed, and that's, again, the leadership in the police department is excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief Arnes and Captain Blakelock. We appreciate you.
They didn't let us use their simulator, but besides that,
Bummer.
Seeing it in
I know.
action is quite interesting, though, watching their training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, this was a really interesting audit to do,
Yeah.
so.
There was an item in the scope that talked about an analysis of overtime that was a firm, Baker was going to do, or the outside firm was going to do. Weaver, that's
Yep.
right. Can you speak any about that? Like, I realized there was no observations or areas of improvement there, but I was just kind of curious about like what they did.
We had a year-long dump of all the overtime, all the officers. We then, put that in an Excel spreadsheet and sliced and diced it every way you can to try to make sure that we're not seeing just one person getting all the overtime, or, making sure that it's the correct rates, and so all that, we
Okay.
sliced and diced that pretty well.
All
Because
right.
that's a big budget item.
For sure, I'm sure, yeah.
It's always a good management tool. It helps you in deciding whether or not you need to hire new officers,
Yeah.
or whether or not you just need to extend the tour of an officer
Yeah.
in certain situations. And it's dependent on a lot of different things. And
Yeah.
we leave it up to the management of the police department to kind of do that. But what we're trying to get internal audit to do is tell us, do we have, too many places where we could maybe fill another slot with overtime, and reduce the overtime and hire that additional officer, or not? And I think that's kind of the analysis that you went to
So-
as well.
We had each month, we had 12 months of all the overtime data by person, by week. I mean, it was great.
Yeah.
So we could really do a lot with it and look at trends and do a lot of analysis on it.
All right, thank you.
And I'd like to commend
Yes.
Chief and Matt on that for, that's something that we've been talking about the last couple of years, of really becoming more strategic with our overtime and allowing that to turn into more officer positions, because like you said, just the way we look at it. And so they've worked really hard on that in the last couple of years, so that it's nice to see it validated in the audit work, so.
Okay? So athletics is our next audit, and it's the small one for the year. As I was talking about earlier, a lot of it's going to be Diane and myself going to basketball games during Thanksgiving and Christmas to watch how they handle money, and how it's from the person walks in to buy a ticket till it gets deposited in the bank, and looking at segregation of duties, and just making sure that all that is, because each school has their own process. So we want to make sure that those processes are making sure that the cash is safe. Next up after that is the IT general controls, which is the big audit for the year. And we're already in planning for that. I think this is going to be the most important audit of the year. This hasn't been done in 13 years. Terry Ross is retiring in December. Field work will start in the middle of February. So whoever the predecessor is will have, you know, our audit to, you know, if there's any areas for improvement to start out with. And I think that'll be really helpful. And I think that'll be really helpful for CISD as a whole to have this done. And then following that will be the Teacher Training Center construction audit, and then we're into summer.
What is the timeline for the general controls one?
Excuse me?
What's the timeline for the general controls one?
So we're in planning right now. Field work is, it's Valentine's Day, so it's the 14th of February through the 11th of March is what we're planning right now.
Okay.
So that'll be the field work time. And Weaver's getting their team together, and we are meeting with Terry Ross the first week of December. They've already sent out a questionnaire, just, you know, getting some documentation ahead of time.
Yeah.
So it's rolling. There's a lot of planning that's involved in this one.
For sure. I think this is a really important audit.
Yeah, I do too.
So I'm looking forward to what
Yeah.
your work shows.
Any other questions for me?
I do. I have a question. I want to go back to the athletic program because
Okay.
that's, I know it's the smallest one. But some of the experiences we had last year at some of the baseball games is we had to buy our tickets ahead of time to kind of eliminate that cash exchange. And I think it was probably because of no touch. You know, we're trying to do that. You said you're going to basketball games. Do they do that at the basketball games as well? Do people buy their tickets ahead of time without using cash? Or do you see us trying to move away from cash altogether? Or, I'm not for or against, I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
so last year we did that. So it was COVID-based because it was capacity-based, so there was limited capacity, so everything was pre-sold, so we didn't overfill
Right.
a stadium. This year it'll go back more to normal, but I think that's part of what,
Oh,
I think we're gonna learn from this audit,
Right.
like, do we want to push more? You know, it all comes with challenges, you know, even like at varsity football, everything is online now. The challenge with that is there are, you know, 2 or 3 different ticket stations at Moorhead Stadium, for example, where there's no good internet access. And so the machines hang up, you know, the same thing could happen at a junior high football game where you don't have good Wi-Fi coverage out there. So those are, I think, all things that we need to look at. We'll learn when we see you know, I think the systems of the cash have been in place since forever, right? That process of bagging the money and the officer walks with and they put it in the safe, you know, all of that. But I think, you know, depending on what we see in the audit, if we feel like that it's time to move away from that and move more into the no cash world, we can look at it.
Yeah, I like that idea of keeping the ability to have cash there because, as you said, when someone just shows up and I know we're more accustomed to it, but
Yeah.
some people aren't, and then they get hung up with, all right, I got to stand outside and buy my ticket, and then you don't have the internet. It's
Yes,
a bit
it makes
frustrating.
it makes it really hard.
So,
How much cash are we talking, like, how much cash is actually collected at these games? I don't think I've ever.
I mean, it could be thousands. I mean,
Really?
depending on
Okay.
what you know, depending on what type of game it is. You go to a junior high game and the ticket prices might be $2 or $3.
Yeah.
You're not going to get to that level. But like varsity football, where a ticket is $10, it could
Most
be.
people are paying at the.
Most pay up front now
Okay.
online, but I mean, when you get to high school events, it can be a significant amount of money. But what we'll see is there are controls, right there, so there are numbered tickets, and so they have sheets that say, you know, we started on this ticket, we ended on this ticket, so we sold out this many, there should be this much cash. So there are systems, and we'll see that in place. It's not just a, you know, general come and throw your money in the pot kind of situation.
Hope
But
not.
yeah, there are.
That would be
systems in
an
place.
opportunity for
Indeed,
improvement.
indeed. I say that, and I hope we don't see that. Please, I hope we don't. But you know, they have good systems in place
Yeah.
to track it.
All right. Cool.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and enjoy your holidays, and we'll see you in 2022.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Thanks so
Gray.
much, Brian.
The last item is just to confirm our next meeting date, which will be January the 12th, 2022, 7:30 a.m. here in this room.
Okay.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you very